Hello and welcome to a special episode of The Weighing Room, where today the three of us will be looking ahead to the jump season and picking out 5 horses to follow for the 2022-23 National Hunt season. Lads, how are we? I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a bit of fun. We were just talking off air. Normally we do post the horses in before. We do the podcast when we do the Weighing Room on a Thursday and a Friday, but obviously this being a bit of a special, we've kept all our horses separate. We don't know what we're picking. And we're all looking forward to the jump season, aren't we? So it's going to be exciting, this one. Frankie, how much are you looking forward to the jumps? Obviously, the flat's been brilliant, but I know you do like the jumps. Stationed in Cheltenham for a long time, haven't you?
Yeah, can't wait. I'm back to Cheltenham this Friday and Saturday. Lots of phone calls going in this week. Who's about? Who's out for a beer after? So there's I'm really looking forward to it. You know, you see all the kind of old faces that I first started going racing with back when I was younger. So I always like going back to Cheltenham. And for me, this October meet at Cheltenham marks the start of the jump. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it really does. Even though Chepstow's the one that everyone calls official, I'm not exactly the same. This October meeting is where some of the bigger horses come out to play, and you start to see all the bigger trainers talking about stuff that's going to happen throughout the season. So yeah, definitely. Paul, we've got to talk about, obviously, in the news this week, the Cheltenham Festival staying at 4 days. We've got to talk about that just before we start. What's your thoughts on that? Are you happy? I think the majority of people are happy, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. I was happy. I suppose I can remember the days when it was a 3-day festival, and I was quite happy with that. But I suppose to facilitate everyone that put on the extra day, I think the 5 days would work commercially. I'm not quite sure it would. You'd still get a crowd on Saturday. There's no question. There's people that work Monday to Friday and would love to go to Cheltenham on a Saturday. But I think it would dilute the calendar, or indeed the festival, even further, wouldn't it? Like the quality, you'd have to say, on Saturday would be questionable of that from Tuesday to Thursday and indeed Friday. So I'm happy with it from a horse racing. As a horse racing fan, I absolutely love National Hunt racing. Grew up, at the start of primary school, all I ever wanted to be was a National Hunt jockey. And as a National Hunt fan, I'm delighted that they kept it to 4 days. But I suppose not an argument, but it just begs the question: is it inevitable at some stage in the future, whether it be 10, 15, 20 years time, is it going to be a 5-day festival? But who knows?
Yeah, I'm of the same opinion. Obviously, the 4 days, even probably at this stage, you can see some people avoiding each other with like races like the Turners and the RSA and stuff like that. And if you made it 5 days, everyone would avoid everyone. We wouldn't see the big clashes that you want to see. But I can understand it from a commercial point of view for racing. Everyone would go on that Saturday, like you said. And I think it probably is inevitable. But I think they made the right decision going into this year's festival. But we'll have to wait and see. Anyway.
I was waiting, James, sorry to butt in. I was waiting for Frankie to say when he's going to Cheltenham on Friday to mention the other person that rings you. But when you're flat out and everything, have you got a ticket? Any spare tickets?
Yeah, I think I tried to give that a firm answer last year and say, make sure I'm not the man for tickets. But yeah, people ringing about for a ticket for sure. I'd be rich if I could sell all the tickets after a phone call I got last year.
Right then, lads, we'll get into it then. And Frankie, we'll give you the honour. We'll let you start first. Who is your first horse to follow for the jump season? Obviously, this isn't any order. We're just going to pick out 5, obviously for all different reasons. But Frankie, we'll give you the honour first. Who are you going with? Who's your first horse to follow for the jump season?
Well, I am going to be talking big names. I'm going to be talking Willie Mullins horses and festival horses, but I wanted to start with one a little bit lesser, you could say, and one that runs this weekend. I thought that would be nice to fire something in that we can look at on the Friday. Jetoile, or Jetoile, however you want to pronounce that, runs. I think a few of us might have put this up at some point throughout last season. But had a decent enough campaign, 2 wins. I was very disappointed at Newbury. I backed it for the handicap there, and I think it ended up coming last. But what I've been most impressed with is this horse's first start chasing at Uttoxeter recently, coming second to Akin Risque, who's quite a decent horse. Won in couple of decent hurdle races last year. I think one of those was a grade 2. It was behind John Bon at Aintree. And Jetoile ran really well and jumped really well on his first chasing start. And I think, to be honest, I think Akim Risque runs as well against Jetoile on Friday. That form could potentially be reversed. I don't know if Jetoile will get off to a winning start because there's an Irish Raider, which looks probably better than the rest of the field. But given that the fact this horse is the yard's top rated, they managed to get it to win twice last year. I know they think a lot of it, and it's got off to a great chasing start. It's not going to go and win huge races, but they're going to try and get bang for buck with this. It jumped beautifully. It's going to be a decent chaser. And as I said, it's kind of the yard's top horse in training. And I'd be surprised if they don't place this to win a few times. So as a horse to follow at some of the lesser meets, where they send this and how they campaign it, I think will definitely pick up a few successes. I was really impressed with its first start of fences. So Jetoile would be the first one for me.
Yeah, Jetoile, definitely a good shout. I actually did the Cheltenham tips today for the winners enclosure site, and I was going through that race, and I was going back and forth. And I rewatched that race with Orcan Risk. And honestly, there was not much to split them, and now
there wasn't them.
Jetoile's getting, I think, £5 or £4 on Friday. So definitely worth a shout. And like you say, this isn't all about, like, we probably will talk about the Constitutional, Festival Vegas and stuff like that, but it is picking out other smaller horses that might not be known to other viewers, that they can have a look through and put in their trackers throughout the season. And like you say, Ryan Potter, he's a trainer who's going to go and pinpoint this horse for different races to go and win some money, isn't he? So yeah, definitely a good shout for Jetoile. Paul, your first, please.
The first one I'm going with is the Gordon Elliott trained Tihapu, who was thought good enough to contest the champion hurdle at Cheltenham following graded successes at Naas and Limerick. Found life a little tough. I know Connections made it an excuse, thought that the going was unsuitable in the champion hurdle, but finished last at 10, then came out and failed to beat a rival home since that. That last run was at Punchestown towards the end of April. And I know it's a horse that Connections think quite a bit of, and I'd be fairly hopeful that Tihapu can get back on track this season.
Yeah, Tihapu, obviously last year won that race just before going to the Cheltenham Festival. Obviously didn't work out there, but it's got so how old is that horse? About 5 or 6, so he's got plenty of scope to keep improving, hasn't it? So Tihapu, yeah, one to watch out for over the next few years, definitely, and it's a great shout. My first horse I'm going to put up is the Dan Skelton trained In This World. He's only been seen twice in his career due to injury last season. And I'm just going to put a little plug in that we spoke to Harry Skelton that's on the Winners Enclosure YouTube channel, and go check it out. And we spoke about this horse. And off the back of speaking to him, I thought I had to put him in here because he's right as rain. He's going to run this season. And just from what I saw off this horse's maiden at Warwick, I just thought this horse could be a little bit special. And from speaking to Harry as well, they obviously think a lot of this horse at the yard. So In This World, if you go back and watch that race at Warwick, Harry didn't touch him at all, pulled clear, and unfortunately he picked up a cut and he was ruled out for the rest of the season. There wasn't enough time to run him before the end of the spring, which had kept him fit, kept him fresh, and he'll be looking towards the spring at summer maybe, if good enough. He's got to go and win some races before that, but some of the bigger, maybe 2-mile hurdle races, and he's just really exciting for me. Another thing with this horse, he was a winner on the flat in France over 1 mile 6.5. If you go back and look who he beat that day, it was Phil Dorr. So obviously we've seen what Phil Dorr's gone on to do last season as superb horse, obviously second in the JCB Triumph hurdle at the Cheltenham Festival. And In This World, we don't know he's going to be as good as Phil Dorr, but off the back of that run and off the back of his maiden win, I just think In This World is a horse that everyone needs to keep an eye on this season for Dan Skelton. So that will be my first. It's just a horse with bags of potential that just could turn out to be anything. Right then, Frankie, second one. Who are you going for?
Yeah, back to the bigger names for Mullins. This is like, it's an obvious shout, but in some ways slightly forgotten. Redemption Day. When Redemption Day and Facile Vega made their debuts last year, I remember, I think it was after Facile Vega, I can't remember if it was Patrick Mullins or somebody said, we got a better one at home, which was Redemption Day. Also went and won nicely on debut. We didn't see Redemption Day until the festival. We obviously saw Facile Vega win before that, I think Dublin Race Festival, and then super impressive at the festival. And everyone was just talking about American Mike and Facile Vega. that ground was absolutely horrendous, and clearly didn't suit Redemption Day. But next time out, Punchestown was battling Facile Vega all the way to the line, and at one point looked like Redemption Day was going to beat Facile Vega. So, like I said, in some ways it's an obvious shout, Redemption Day, but in others, people have been talking about Facile Vega as it's a certainty 2-1, and American Mike and trying to find out where these horses are going to go. Redemption Day will be a very, very good horse this year, and there's nothing. From watching that race at Punchestown, there's nothing to say that couldn't go and beat Facile Vega. So I'd be trying to find out where Redemption Day is going to go. And as these horses are campaigning, you'd hope that Willie Mullins splits Facile Vega and Redemption Day throughout the season so that they can both pick up some Grade 1 successes. So I think it'd be a good horse to follow for the year. Probably be short enough until it hits a big race, but an exciting one to watch.
Yeah, Redemption Day. I backed it at the festival, actually. It was just when all that rain came, he just scuppered his chances, didn't he? But at Punchestown, I think there was a couple of quotes from Patrick, obviously, during his bumper season saying, when Facile Vega went and won, they said, we've got another one at the yard that's just as good. And he proved that day that he maybe not as good, but could definitely go on to be. And I think the key to him is definitely not heavy, softish ground. He probably just wants it good to soft, doesn't he? That he can skip off the top of the ground, but he looked a very fast horse. And yeah, maybe a bit forgotten because, like you said, Facile Vega is the horse that everyone talks about. But Willie Mullins has got that many good novice hurdlers in his arsenal this season, hasn't he? And Redemption Day is definitely one I'm looking forward to seeing. Paul, who's your second pick?
My second pick is a horse that, if ever there was a horse made for Paddy Brennan, I think it's Night Salute, whose sole defeat came in the Triumph Hurdle last season. Prior to that, went in with a perfect 5 from 5 and rounded off last season dead heating with Pied Piper at Aintree. You can't question Night Salute's attitude. You know, he's all heart, and I'd be hoping he can pick up where he left off last season. He's entered up at Cheltenham on Saturday afternoon. So second one to follow is Night Salute.
Yeah, Night Salute. He's the stable star in it for Milton Harris, and he's been absolutely brilliant last season. And like we were talking about with Cheltenham this weekend, he's got that rematch with Pied Piper. It looks like anyway. This weekend, and that's going to be a cracker because that race at Aintree was absolutely brilliant. I know all the fiasco that's come out after with going to appeal and stuff like that, but if you actually look at the horse race, it was brilliant. 2 horses battling to the line, and Night Salute, like you said, his attitude, he's just second to none, isn't it? So definitely a horse with a big future, and only 4 years of age still. So yeah, definitely one to watch out for. I've gone for a lesser known one again for my second pick. It's for Gordon Elliott, and it's a horse called Demand Driving Duvan. It's a horse not known to many, really, but now with Gordon Elliott, and off the back of his point-to-point win, I just think this could be an exceptional talent for a yard. Let's say over the last few years, he's had some tough years, hasn't it? But now you see he's getting the horses back in, and I think he could have a really big season, Gordon Elliott. And I think this could be one of the horses that could be up there that could help that. A Son of Walk in the Park. This 5-year-old's 11th length winner at Boris House in March 2022. And was then bought by Buttonwood Farm and given to Elliott. He's only been seen once in a bumper to date, back in May. And he was a good second over 2 miles. Look, bumpers is not going to be what he's all about. I don't think he's going to be a horse to go over hurdles and fences. But if you actually look at the form of that bumper, it's worked out massively. So he's just an exciting talent for Gordon Elliott. And I just think he's a horse to keep on the right side of going forward. That's Demand Driving Divan. I think it's a great name as well. Frankie, your third pick, please, for your horses to follow.
Champ Keeley, who I watched romp home at Galway. That was very, very impressive that day. And in the lineup was a JP owned, I can't remember what it was called now. What was it called, if I can find him? Dawn Rising, a decent rated flat horse, rated 107 on the flat, which was fancy to win that. And yeah, Champ Keeley went and just cantered on the bridle about 20 lengths clear. Backed that up by beating Brazil, which was a selection of mine back at the festival that beat that well-fancied and well-handicapped Mullins horse that day. I'm not sure if you remember the name of that. We're going back, testing the Cheltenham memory now. Brazil beat Gaelic Warrior. That was the one that everyone thought was miles in on the handicap. So, yeah, I mean, really impressive at Galway. Beat Brazil, which I think is good form. The kind of question, but potentially works in this horse's favour. He's a 6-year-old, albeit only seen twice or 3 times. So probably has his issues. He's had a 426-day break after his first start with Willie Mullins, and then has gone on to win twice. So provided he stays sound, I'd imagine there's a lot more to come from this horse. But from what we've seen so far, another exciting and relatively unexposed Willie Mullins horse, as we expect.
Yeah, like we were saying, Mullins has just got that many good horses that could go over in the novice hurdle division this season. And obviously, like you say, his win last time out was absolutely brilliant. And he did. You've got to think Mullins has got so many superb horses, but where does this rank? And to me, from what we've seen so far, you can only judge it of what you've seen. And this Champ Carly was absolutely brilliant. I think maybe probably go for the Royal Bond. Maybe I don't know. I don't know if that's been mentioned, but that's probably looks likely. And then you'll go from there and just see how quality that horse is. But Champ Carly, definitely a great shout. Paul, who's your third horse to follow for the season?
Third horse, I'm going to stick with Galvin to go on and I think hopefully get it a little bit closer to, come in the Gold Cup come March. Was fourth behind the Plutar in last season's Gold Cup. Got the job done on season reappearance. Again, a horse that connections absolutely love. And I know Robbie Power won a chase, a 6-runner chase at the showcase meeting back in October 2020. It was during the lockdown. I mean, Robbie gone over to partner a number. He'd gone over to ride for the Tizards and ride a number of the Irish horses that were going over to Cheltenham at the time. And Robbie was really taken with that performance. And on the back of that, he's a horse that I followed his progress through. Like I said, he got the job done nicely on season reappearance at Punchestown. So it's Galvin for me to go on and hopefully get it a little bit closer, if not taking the Gold Cup come March.
Yeah, Galvin, we were massively behind Galvin. And he is a bit of a favourite for us because I really do like Galvin. And I hope he goes to Down Royal and does something a bit special because he's just a horse that absolutely tries his heart out. And he stays. It's just if he's got the class now. But I think he's definitely a horse that the Elliott Yard have been murmuring about, haven't they? And I think this could have a really big season. Yeah, Galvin, a really good shout. I'm going to go for a Willie Mullins one now for my third pick. And I've got a couple of Mullins in here because why not? He's just the man to be behind, isn't he? And it's a horse that's more known to National Hunt fans, but maybe a bit forgotten last season due to injury. And that is Allegoria de Bassi. This horse is the favourite for the Grade 2 Mares Chase as we speak. Currently around 5-1 for the Cheltenham Festival. Obviously, a lot can happen. He didn't get to the Cheltenham Festival last season, and it was the favourite for the Grade 2 Mares Novices Hurdle leading up to the race, but had a step back. Looks now to be going chasing, and I just think this is exactly what this horse needs. I think it's a class act. It was bought by Rich Ritchie, obviously wearing that famous pink and green, and shown some potential in France. That's where they got this horse from. And then she was obviously seen last term in Ireland. She made a debut for Mullins at Fairyhouse in a mare's hurdle, and she looked a bit of a monster. If you go back and watch that, she bolted up by 11 lengths and just won with any amount in hand. She went straight into the Grade 3 Solarina Stakes back at Fairyhouse, and she saw off Brandy Love. And a lot of people were talking about Brandy Love before the Cheltenham Festival as well. Her jumping was so far wild, like left, right, going all over the place. But Brandy Love was brilliant staying on that day. But if you look at Allegoria de Bassi, went from the front and was never to be caught and was just a much better horse, I thought. So if the yard really like Brandy Love, they've got to like Allegoria de Bassi. Sending a chase in this season. And like I said, 5-1 for the Mares Chase already this season. It might look short to many, but I think that's a really good price because I think if she gets there, I think she'll be very, very tough to beat. And I just hope she's campaigning towards that. So Allegoria de Bassi for Rich Ritchie and Willie Mullins is my third pick. So I think she's going to have a massive season. Right then, getting into the tail end now. Frankie, your fourth, please.
Last Willie Mullins horse, I promise. If there was one horse that I would have had down maybe for someone else to put up a shout for, this would probably be Al Fabiolo, who we didn't see too much of last year. I mean, won its maiden at 2-7, and then was next seen coming second to John Bon. Little bit of trouble in running. There was a faller in front of Al Fabiolo, just kind of set him off course a little, and then came within a neck of John Bon and really battled all the way to the line. Finished up winning at Punchestown at the end of the season, and I think this could be a real exciting chaser. Absolutely huge horse. John Bon's a big horse and was towering over John Bon. If you watch that race back at entry, it's a massive horse. So one that I'd be looking forward to seeing chasing, and one that has done a lot to come second to John Bon, with being only running once before that for Willie Mullins. So there's got to be a lot of improvement to come here, and we don't know what it's going to be like jumping a fence, but given its size, I'd be hopeful.
El Fabiolo, do you know what? I was so close to putting him in because I think he's got an absolutely unbelievable chance in the Arkle this season. I think this horse, like you said, that form with John Bon, it was a cracking race at Aintree, that was. Like we said, Mullins has got that many good horses over both hurdles and fences, but this one looked a bit special, didn't it? And El Fabiolo, yeah, I'm glad you put that up because I was so close, but I've gone down a different route, so I'm glad you have. El Fabiolo, definitely a good pick there, Frankie. Paul, your fourth, please.
Fourth to follow, not original, but Constitution Hill, I think, is going to take, I think he can certainly put it up to the mare in the champion hurdle. When you look at his winning time in the Supreme, it was just over 3 minutes and 44 seconds in comparison to the Honeysuckle's victory in the champion hurdle, which was 3 minutes and 50 seconds, a little over 3 minutes and 50 seconds. The mare she'll be 9 now come March. Constitution Hill will be 6. You'd imagine he's got father time on his hands. And saying that, the mare's going to be, Honeysuckle's going to be a lot better, I think, going faster. But I think this year she's got a real contender in Constitution Hill.
Yeah, Paul, another one I'm glad you put up, Constitution Hill, because I think a few of us were behind him, weren't we, for the Supreme. I absolutely love this horse. I think, look, Honeysuckle's been absolutely superb, but she maybe hasn't had the best opposition to go against her in the champion hurdles over the last few years. Constitution Hill is probably better than anything she's ever faced. And if they both get there healthy and fit in peak form, what a race that champion hurdle is going to be this season, especially if you throw Vauban in as well, if he goes down that route. But Constitution Hill is probably one of my favourite horses going into the season. So I'm glad you put him up because he's just superb. And you probably know the route he's going to go down, don't you? You could go Fighting Fit, then probably Christmas Hurdle, and then go to the Cheltenham Festival and then maybe see what they do after. But it's just how good he could be. I think Henderson's come out and said that he's bulked up again. He's looking better than ever. And we'll just have to wait and see how he turns out when he first comes out, because Constitution Hill, he's brilliant.
And you touched on it there, James. Like we don't want any hard luck stories either in the champion hurdle. We want a super fit Honeysuckle and Constitution Hill both getting clear runs, and the best horse wins.
Yeah,
definitely. What about Vauban? Can he be thrown in the mix?
No, definitely. Vauban he's definitely a horse you can throw in the mix. I think he's around 8 to 1. I think a lot of people have put him up as a bit of the value, but I just think Constitution Hill could blow them all away. If you look at the sectional times from that champion hurdle and the Supreme and the Triumph, I know different track for the Triumph and stuff like that. But if you go just those times, Constitution Hill,
a beast, isn't it?
Absolutely, pardon me French, pisses up. So. Yeah. I just think he's a superb horse. I just can't wait to see him again this season. And hopefully we'll get to see him slightly more than we did last season, but we never know, because I think we only seen him 3 times, didn't we? So we'll have to wait and see. So, my fourth pick for my horse to follow, it's another Mullins one, so I apologise for that, but it's a horse who was well known in the juvenile ranks last term, but still only sitting on a mark of, I think, 137. And look, I don't know what route they're going to go down with this horse, but if they go into handicaps, or they can still go into novices with this horse, they haven't won yet, is Ilate Tomps for Willie Mullins. And I just think the scope of this horse, off the back of what he did last season, running behind the likes of Vauban, Fildor, Pied Piper, and not winning yet, his mark could be thrown into a big fielded handicap. And I just think he'll be winning races this season. I think Mullins, that will be his prerogative to get this horse winning races. He's bought last year by Barnane Stud from France, moved to Ireland, obviously, to train by Mullins. And he just showed a lot of form. Like I said, he bumped into really tough animals. Like, he made his debut at the Dublin Racing Festival. If that doesn't tell you everything, I don't know what will, because chucked straight into a Group 1, behind his stablemate Vauban, behind Fildor, in that Grade 1 sprint juvenile hurdle. And I thought, if you look at him, he pulled so hard all the way around and still finished the race off well. He was a massive eye catcher that day. He was sent to the Triumph, finished 4th. Probably didn't get home as well as others did. But I just think he's a big talent. And off 137, I'll just keep an eye on Ilate Tomps. I think he'll be winning races this season. Frankie, your fifth and final horse to follow, please, for the season.
Horse which I was saying to myself, don't put in, and I've put him in. Three Stripe Life.
I had a feeling that might have been covered.
my cliff horse, but I did get redemption at Aintree. I did.
Yeah.
I just want. I mean, most people watching will know who Three Stripe Life is, and he was campaigned just basically following Sir Gerhard home in most of the big races, and then managed to win at Aintree. Which I mean, that I was rubbing my hands together. I think he was about 5-2. They priced him up at that day. I couldn't believe it. So, like I said, I did get redemption after backing him nearly every time he ran before that. Slightly disappointed with his seasonal finisher at Punchestown, but I'm going with the angle that we don't know how he's going to take defence. He's a bit of a messy horse, but maybe they will just try and campaign this horse to get a little bit more success, because it was obviously a frustrating season last year. And if he shows loads at home and he jumps fences really well, then maybe they will go down the top route and they'll try and chase Sir Gerhard home and those sorts of horses and battle it out with them. But something tells me maybe he could be top of just one level below, and they could actually campaign for quite a nice season and win some good races and maybe skip some of the top Cheltenham or Dublin Racing Festival meets where he will come in and maybe be the bridesmaid again. So I'm hoping that Three Stripe Life has just a bit of an easier run behind better horses, and obviously hope he jumps well and makes a good chaser. But I just have to. Well, I said don't throw him in, but yeah, I was just drawn back in.
Yeah, I'd have been really disappointed with you, Frankie, if you wouldn't have put Three Stripe Life in after how many times you put him up last season. I think what you've said is right with Three Stripe Life. I've got a bit of a theory this season that he maybe not have been the best jumper over hurdles, but be a better jumper over fences. I think.
Yeah,
I just think
you
he's
could
quite
make
a
that
big
guess.
horse, and fences is probably what he needs to get the best out of him. I also think he'll be going over longer trips, because I think that'll be better for him. I think he gallops really, really well. And I do think Three Stripe Life could have a big career over fences, and I'm glad you put him up, because I hope he does go on to be a big success for the Elliott Lard. Right then, Paul, your final one, please.
Well, I've gone for a bit of a dark horse here, and as a proud
is he going
man,
at Dundalk?
What's that?
I said, is he going at Dundalk?
No, we'll save that for later on in the week now. I couldn't let the recording go without tipping up this horse. As a proud Meath man, Meath footballers just haven't been doing it. They've been in the doldrums for some time. The county team, thankfully, the ladies team have been making hay. They're All-Ireland champions in 2021 and 2022. Our race and our jockeys and trainers are making hay out on the course. So I'm not going to let the pod go by without tipping up this lad who runs on Friday. It's a horse called On V, which translated to English means Meath. So as a proud Meath man, I'm gonna be following On V for the season. Gordon Elliott's runner was a beaten favourite in 2 points, was a beaten odds-on favourite when last seen in February. He was beaten by a horse trained by Stuart Crawford, but is entered up and is declared for Friday at Cheltenham. I think is in the final race, the 5:5. Davy Russell is booked to ride. So my fifth and final horse to follow is the Gordon Elliott trained On V.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Brilliant bit of sentiment behind that. And yeah, as you say, on Friday, running in that maiden hurdle. It looks quite a smart race, actually. We've got a grade 2 second Aintree, I think, running Hull and back as well in that. So it'd be good to see where Anvie will lie in terms of how good this horse could be over hurdles. So yeah, definitely a nice one to follow, and a bit more of a dark horse that maybe our viewers might not have heard of before. So right, I'm going to finish this off then. And it's another Mullins one. I'm sorry, but I can't get away from him. But it's a horse that we don't know much about that could turn into be a bit of a superstar, and I think he will. And that's Mercury, again for Rich Ritchie and Mullins. And Mercury, he bounded onto the scene as a 4-year-old last term, had his debut in January, and the gelding got off the mark in like I just thought it was really, really taking style. He bolted up by 13 lengths at Gowan Park. He was seen once more, and they skipped the Cheltenham Festival. There was a lot of talk after when he won that bumper. Would he go to the Cheltenham Festival? He was implementing the betting around 3rd, 4th favourite for that champion bumper. He didn't go. They skipped it. He's a young horse. They want to get the best out of this horse. So they gave it one more run in the bumper. And And he was third. He was behind Impulsive Dancer for the same for Mullins at Limerick, and he was slightly disappointing. But I don't think probably Bumpers is what they bought this horse for. I think to go over hurdles this term is exactly where he's going to shine. I just thought whatever he did last season was a bonus. He is a horse that is going to be developed, I think. If you watch how Mullins dealt with this horse, he had a lot of horses that he ran in that champion bumper. He could have easily chucked this in, but he probably knew he had the race won. And I think they'll build this horse up, and I think he'll be winning a Grade 1. Maybe not this year, but maybe the year after, over hurdles. I just think he's a really smart talent that he's got a lot of pace. And I think Mercury, for the top connections as well, Richard, they don't get it wrong a lot. I thought he was one to keep an eye on this season for Willie Mullins. Right then, chaps, that was a bit of fun, wasn't it? Looking at our 5 horses to follow for the season. Obviously, we'll keep track on it through our podcast every week, seeing how they get on. We'll obviously shout them up when they're about to run or if they have an entry as well, so we can keep track of them. But just before we finish, obviously with Cheltenham this weekend and a lot of the jump season leading up to the Cheltenham Festival in March, we are a mile away. And it is a bit of fun, but I'm going to ask you chaps for an anti-post bet at this stage for the Cheltenham Festival. What's your best bet at this stage? Paul, we'll start with you on this one.
Probably a bit more sentimental. I'm going to follow Galvin again, around about the 16-1 mark, following his success, his reappearance success at Punchestown. I'm going to give him another chance in the Gold Cup and hope that he can follow, get a bit closer, as I said, if not win the Gold Cup come March. Just want to mention as well, a couple of trainers, we'd always say Nigel Twiston-Davis's horses are always generally pretty straight this time of year, and I have to give a mention to Fergal O'Brien as well. Fergal, of course, graduated. He was the head lad or assistant trainer to Nigel once upon a time, and Fergal, if anything's rubbed off, he certainly has his horses fairly straight in the early part of the season, so probably 2 yards to follow if history is anything to go by.
Yeah, definitely. And Fergal O'Brien obviously was unlucky last season when he at the festival in that Pertemps with Alaphilippe. I don't think Alaphilippe's going to run this season, but I hope this season he gets that festival winner because he's a brilliant trainer. And like you say, he gets his horses bang on all season round, but especially at the start of the season when others are just coming into fruition. So yeah, it's a great shout from you, Paul. Right then, Frankie, who's your anti-post Cheltenham Festival pick then at this stage?
Googling 3-stroke life prices in the background here. Now we've got talking about it, I'm trying to figure out where I can find an angle. But no, I think Alfie Abiolo for the Arkle, I think, is a great shout. Could go to the Turners, but I mean, probably more likely the Arkle and potentially weaker competition there. And, as we haven't seen him too much, but what we have seen of him has been very impressive and hopefully makes a good chaser. As I said, he's a big boy. So yeah, Alfie Abiolo.
Yeah, great shout. I think he's got a really big shout. And I just can't wait to see him in that division against the likes of John Bon and horses like that. So yeah, El Fabio. I think was he around 8-1? Or was he short? Yeah, 8-1.
Yeah, around 8.
I think that's a fair price, isn't it, at the moment? Just to see how he is jumping fences. I've gone a bit left field here, lads. I've gone for a treble already. And it's just 3 horses at this stage that I love and I think could have a massive chance. Look, we're talking way in advance here, and it's really small stakes. But Constitution Hill to win the Champion Hurdle, Delta Work to win the cross country, and Allegory Bassi to win the Mare's Chase. Works out about 45-1 currently. As I said, if you want to play it, small stakes. I've had a little nibble small stakes at this stage. But I just think that's a really exciting treble. It's hard enough to get one winner at the Cheltenham Festival. I understand that, but I just like these 3 horses. And I know we're so far out, you get caught up in the fever, don't you? And I look at these 3 horses, and I think if they get there and go to these races, they've got absolutely massive chances. So yeah, that's Constitution Hill for the Champion Hurdle, Delta Work for the cross country to win it again, and Allegory de Bassi, who I put up as one of my horses to follow to win the Mare's Chase. Right then, chaps, that's it for this special show we've had. Obviously, like I said, we'll go through them throughout the season and see how we're all getting on. But thanks as always, Frankie and Paul, for those horses. Please be sure to like this video. Get involved with your horses to follow in the comments. We want to see what you're putting up this season. And be sure to subscribe because there's a lot of content coming over the next few weeks. And like I said, the Harry Skelton one's on there. And we'll have our pod recorded on Friday looking at Cheltenham at the weekend and also some of the flat at Doncaster and Newbury. So, lads, thanks again. And hopefully we picked out some nice horses for the season there.